2nd, 2022 Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Please silence or turn off cell phones. The Director of Economic and Community Development, E.J. Roach, will discuss the following items. Establishment of a Housing Development Reserve Fund. Initial funding for this reserve fund will come from proceeds received from the sale of tax-acquired property. Assessing State of Maine Community Action Grant through Bangor Area Comprehensive Transportation System. Update on Downtown Committee, Maine Development Foundation collaboration, and the pop-up shops. EJ.
Good evening, everybody. The first item on the agenda, we've been doing some work to wrap our heads around our existing housing in Old Town. We've partnered with the Maine Development Foundation, who access some EDA money to do the housing study. So we're coming out of that. We haven't finalized the report. They're adjusting a few things, and I'll share that with the council as we have it completed. One of the things we're finding is there's a need to have another tool in our toolbox to help developers, small-scale developers or large-scale developers with a little bit of additional financing to help put some housing into the community that we need. We're finding there's a lot of seniors in town that are looking to downsize from their existing homes. We're finding a need for rental housing as the university grows, but the cost of housing, as you all know, has gone up significantly. So trying to find the balance between being able to afford some new development, shifting some of the demographics so people coming to the area don't have to spend a significant amount of money or an arm and a leg to have that first starter home. So one of the things we're looking to do is take some of the resources from our tax acquired properties and put those into a housing reserve fund. This is kind of the 30,000 foot view we want to discuss tonight about just the idea of it. And then what we would do is determine how far back we go. Are we looking at just this year's housing or tax acquired properties that we sold? Do we go back a little bit? Do we go forward? Obviously, any additional tax acquired property will be put into this fund, and we will develop collaboration with the city and the Old Town Development LLC. We'll put together a program that specifically kind of gives us some guidelines and parameters on how to use those resources, whether it's subsidizing some development or subsidizing some renovations of existing homes in the community. So we'll look to other places throughout the state that have established some programs. Bangor's done some good programs to allow. Obviously, there's parameters and guidelines and lots of paperwork, but providing developers to really focus on providing the small families an opportunity to rent or live, making it make the numbers work a little bit on some of the development costs and renovation costs. Some communities are encouraging people who work in town, whether they work for the school system or fire and police. They have programs where you can take advantage of that if you work for the city and agree to live in the community or live in the home you renovate with some of those funds. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, just another tool to add to the toolbox. We'll provide some parameters and develop a program and give that as a tool for us to use.
Anyone on the committee have a question for?
EJ, do you have a dollar amount in mind to start the fund with? Because if you're looking at forward now or possibly back taxes too, do you have an idea what you would like to start with?
Ballpark, I think just quickly, the 3 houses we just sold are probably, you add up all 3, probably 150,000, I believe.
Yeah, we'll net out like around 132 or so once you pay back, back taxes and expenses out of that.
But this kind of will get rolled into a sort of bigger program where we've been talking about just the tax acquired properties and getting those back out into the communities and tax rolls, but trying to direct some of those funds to do that. And obviously going forward is easy. We can take a look at past years or past sales the last couple of years and see if it's worth starting or starting small and then finding ways to grow that. each year.
You would, and the fund, you don't know how you'd use it yet, in which manner?
Correct.
If it would, you're not sure.
It would be housing specific.
What you need for housing.
Right.
Which you kind of know, but you need to know because there are a lot of houses that do need to be fixed up, and so, yeah.
Any other questions for EJ on this item? EJ, how much, I know you don't know how much, but is 132,000, like Bill said, is that enough to get you off the ground?
I think that would be a great start. It'd give us something to work with. Gives us a little bit of flexibility to provide that extra funding, whether it's low interest loans or grants of some sort, just to sort of tip the balance a little bit on the financials for doing some development of housing. So
Historically, where has that money gone, that when we have sold tax-acquired
It
property?
just goes back in the general fund.
General fund? Any other questions for EJ on that item? Item number 2, community action grants.
we are working with the Bangor Area Comprehensive Transportation System, BACS. They are applying to sort of be the convener of other communities to access some state money, specifically geared towards climate initiatives. So some of the money that is available, for example, would be used for embracing the future of transportation, putting in charging stations, using electric cars, focusing on reducing emissions through clean energy, modernizing main buildings. A lot of the things that we've been doing already, like when we renovated the synagogue, we put in a heat pump. We participated in the Efficiency Main program and got a rebate there. What this does, it allows BACS to be sort of our technical guidance through applying and helping administer some of the funds. As we identify some projects that need to be done, the state requires, I think, a 10% match. So working through BACS will give us a little bit of assistance becoming eligible for these resources, can help us put together a plan to sort of address some of these challenges to help reach the state's goal of impacting the environment. So wanted to sort of bring that to you guys to see if you had any concerns with us working with BACS. Some of these projects we've already done, other projects we're looking to do, but having the access to 90%, I think would be beneficial. So.
Any questions for EJ on this one? Okay, item 3, Downtown Committee of Main Development Foundation collaboration.
Just a quick update, this group has met twice. We have some great representation from the council on that committee. It's a larger committee. We have about 17 or 18 folks, depending on the week. But we've had some really great meetings and have identified projects that we want to prioritize and tackle this coming year. Just for example, some of the common themes seem to be walkability and signage, marketing and advertising as the downtown, trying to bring people to downtown through obviously the social media platforms and having an organized approach. Focusing on events to bring people to downtown. Everyone on the committee is excited that Riverfest is coming back. Not that it ever left, it just took a couple year pause. It didn't go anywhere. It was just a COVID timeout, I guess. And other ideas, charging stations, street lights, those types of things are coming through that committee. So just wanted to give everybody an update that group has really sort of taken the downtown plan kind of by the horns and is sort of leading us through doing some great things. Included in the downtown, and kind of this is a tangent, but wanted to bring it up, is obviously the impact of fiber in the downtown, and just to give you guys a sense of where we're at and where we're going. Can you guys see the TV in front of us? So I'll kind of walk you through this quickly. This is obviously, we'll just focus on downtown, or focus on Old Town. This also has Orono's build out as well. As you can see, this is our existing fiber network. The red is the main, and then there's a couple trunks. So this is what is active fiber now. Otelco, when they come in and build, this is what Otelco is going to provide internet service to. So you can see the relatively dramatic increase in the footprint. And through leveraging our existing network, Otelco will add these existing routes. See the little green lines that just popped up? So those will also be built. And there's a little bit off Route 43 that comes back down Kirkland Road. So that's kind of where we're going to end up being once Otelco is completed their build. Gives us an opportunity to focus on some of these gaps, because there are houses in between where these lines end and some of these areas out here. But we've been talking with Otelco as they've rolled out this plan, is to work with them to better understand the need and the interest in fiber. They can use their existing network for us to pinpoint where we invest our additional resources. So if people are interested, willing to sign up, or very interested, we can gather that data through them and sort of prioritize where to build next. So I just kind of wanted to give folks an update. We talk about fiber a lot, but this kind of gives you sort of the 30,000-foot view of where we currently have it, where it's going to be by late summer, early fall 2022, and then where some of the gaps still exist. So,
EJ, can you go back to the first picture showing just the orange? And zoom in a little bit. So that square is what's currently set up already, or the yellowish is already set up, or is that what they're going to do?
red and yellow, that's live.
That's live.
If you live on any of those routes, you can get fiber today.
Can they have them take a left just a little
I
bit?
know.
Because you're darn close to Middle Street, so
Yeah, it's close.
literally one street over and I'll be happy.
Well, we can find some spare fiber if you want to just kind of put it up there and get it over there. So that's kind of where we're at.
EJ, I have a question before you move on to number 4, if you were ready to go to 4.
Sure.
On number 3, I was at that meeting that you mentioned. I thought it was very good, but who is going to coordinate these things between Downtown Committee, LLC, City? Is that going to fall to you, or?
Yeah, that'll fall to me to sort of corral the ideas and keep the momentum moving forward, and sort of helping understand it. It's great having the volunteers in that committee, but making sure it aligns with the LLC and the city and the council. So it's great to have them as sort of the champions of the downtown.
Yep.
And speaking on behalf of just encouraging people to get involved. But I'll coordinate the little things. 'Cause some of the things you heard we're working on sort of at the same time.
Yep.
But it's good to show that they're thinking about it, they're talking about it, and it can help us sort of move that keep the agenda moving forward with that group.
I do think the breakout sessions were a very good idea.
Yes.
Because one, you don't know a lot of these people, you know, and the two, I had Alex in mind, I know Alex, and then the other one was, is it Ernie? I can't think of his name now. The other one, didn't know who he was, he says he's just a resident, but very good to talk to,
Yeah.
a lot of great ideas.
Yeah.
So it was very, you know, I thought that was, people don't like breakout sessions, but it's good to get to know people. And a lot, like I said, the energy was good, there was a lot of good people talking, a lot of good ideas.
And I will say, again, I know I always bring this up, but walkability, and I think these streetlights down here in the center of town are on, that's gonna be, we're gonna address that soon, or, because that is the biggest hindrance to walking in downtown. If you have all your business on this side of Center Street, you're never aware of it. But when you try to walk from one end of Main Street to the other, that's a real barrier. And it really isn't walkable. You go up and try, because you wait so long at those lights. And then you're not sure they're gonna stop. So, those lights are a big problem
Right.
in downtown. But I say it every time, so eventually, maybe, yeah.
But I do think that'll be one of the top priorities, I think, of that committee, is to address the challenges with walkability, putting some of the other downtown things in context of people walking around. It's easy to develop a plan as you're driving around town, but when you walk it and see how it
Completely
works,
different.
or see how scary it is to cross Center Street
Yeah.
at various points of the day, we'll make
Or
sure
how
that's
patient you are, how many times, or if you see that light, you know the cycles when you go there a lot, and if you see it turn, get up there quick and you'll make it when you have that few seconds to get across there on the yellow arrow. I know, I complain about it all the time, so, but it is important to downtown.
It is. Thank you. Okay, just a kind of quick update on the pop-up shops, which also spurred out of our downtown work. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit. This is probably a better view. I've talked to all three of the pop-up shop owners. They realized last year was a crazy year with getting started and sort of dealing with sort of hiring people, challenges with COVID, all those types of things. They realized they dropped the ball and didn't be as consistent as they intended on the hours, all being open the same time, all having the same hours. So we had the discussion of relocating the pop-up shops, which is a possibility, but I think it would require us, and we're more than happy to do this, to come back to the drawing board to figure out where we go down the road with these. Are we going to add more? There's interest, I believe, to add more pop-up shops. So it's trying to find the balance of adding enough to fill the need, but not adding too many where we have some that are vacant. See my little arrow? This is where the pop-up shops currently are, across from the splash pad. So the discussion has been, how do we get them, and hopefully these are temporary. That was the idea, that some type of development comes up here, so we have to move them. They might be better off, or we have the ability to sort of be a little bit more permanent and more forward-thinking if they're on the other side of the street. Having people cross back and forth from the splash pad to the pop-up shops can be a challenge, kind of similar to crossing Center Street, a different type of challenge. But some of the ideas to look sort of, this is, I guess, literally a 30,000-foot view, of where we might include them or move them. Here's the comfort station and the playground. This area along here, I think, has some capacity, would need some work to do some renovations, do some site work, if we think that's where we could put them, and utilizing the river, getting them close to the river but near the park, I think is the goal. I think it would benefit the pop-up shops. I think it would benefit the people visiting. So part of it is looking at perhaps this area. It'd be nice to have them closer to here, near the comfort station. There's power on this side of the street. We have some ability here. This is green space, but this could be adjusted or changed into parking space to perhaps replace some parking we might take over here if we line up the pop-up shops here. And doing that, you obviously impact sort of the flow of traffic. We don't want to have people flying in and out of the parking lot in and around the pop-up shops, but this is something we can look at. Perhaps updating the playground a little bit. I know that's probably been around longer than we think. When you look at the date and sort of upgrading some of the fencing and such, we could utilize or tie in the pop-up shop to have that area be a place where people come, bring their kids, bring their families, buy things, get an ice cream. And in some way, it gives us, I think, a better opportunity to incorporate a farmer's market. That's been brought up several times through the downtown study, through the survey, it hasn't surfaced yet with this downtown group, but I imagine it might. So having the ability to do some temporary events in and around the pop-up shops gives us some wiggle room down here. But this takes a little bit of work. We don't want to just be popping them from place to place and having people catch up to where they are. But thought I'd just update folks where we're at and get any input or questions or suggestions.
Is there any discussion of putting them on this side of the street between, the vacant lot or on Main Street?
That was one of the possibilities. We could put them there.
I mean, because they are movable,
Correct.
so if anyone wanted to develop, it's kind of, they'll just stay for the time being, right? Yeah, so I mean, they're there they could move if you needed to move,
Correct.
if something came along. Just curious, because that's dead space. Nothing seems to be going on there.
I think each location has its strengths and weaknesses, and number of strengths across the street in the vacant lot, but then you also add, rather than trying to cross one street, you're kind of in the middle of two streets. And
They're
so-
nowhere near as hard to cross as that one down there. I'll tell you
that's
that.
definitely an opportunity to consider,
Yeah.
Councilman.
What would be wrong with taking that, right where your cursor is, right by the Compass Station, down, where it looks like there's existing parking,
Right here.
right there.
Yep. There's a couple ADA accessible spots that we would probably have to locate or relocate somewhere, either here or out on the street, or adjust this a little bit to have some parking here that accesses the Comfort Station as well. So I think this gives us a good opportunity. Having them on or near a paved surface becomes, I think, beneficial. It extends you can have a kind of a rainy day and still not be dealing with mud and issues like that. And part of we were thinking about, or one of the suggestions was down somewhere over closer to the park, sort of the heart of the park. But having the ability of the vendors to have access to load in and out, it's beneficial to have a parking lot, or at least a paved surface that you're not dealing with mud and people walking around, and because it does get a little muddy down there.
I have a question. Do we own that parking lot?
Yes, we do.
I thought we did. I just wanted to double check. Okay.
Yep.
So no one in that area can say, no, you can't do that because you're blocking our parking for our church or whatever?
We may have some
Blowback?
concerns, but I think if we'd bring everybody to the table and have that discussion, realizing what day, because currently the way the pop-up shops are operated, they're not open on Sunday.
Anyway, yeah.
They'd be open currently Thursday, Friday, Saturday for this coming year. So it has the ability to share a space and maximize it on every day, rather than having a facility that's used one day and
Right, right.
impacting
Gotcha. Good.
the parking the rest of the day.
Tim?
So just, you had the cursor there on that, right? Is that green space there? You see the vehicle, and to my right, keep going, what's in there? Is that just green space?
That is the edge of the edge of the parking lot, and then the fence to the playground is right there.
So there is room there.
There is room. You could probably square this off and have this entire sort of area, which would allow for expansion of the pop-up shops. And not this would be, if you add it here, you're not taking any spots. There's 1, 2, 3, probably 5 or 6 here that we'd perhaps want to relocate, or I think currently we wouldn't see a huge impact. And
I think we'd start on that first area, and when they're successful, we can expand over. So what's your time frame? Are you going to try to do something for this year? Is this a year away, getting everything set up, or?
we can take a look at sort of the costs involved in getting them moved, getting them set up, because what we don't want to do is be in a situation where we were last year, where we're kind of chasing getting them moved, getting them in place, and getting open. We'll have to assess the electricity is there, but getting power to these in a way that makes sense and gives us the ability to add more as we go. We can do a more specific sort of dive and get some costs and timelines and go from there and see if we could make it happen before sort of the goal is by Memorial Day, the Memorial Day parade, to have the pop-up shops open, and the vendors have agreed to that, so.
Carol?
Do the pop-up shops have water to them?
No.
So that's kind of hard for the vendors.
Yeah, and they know that going in, that they can operate with
Yeah.
just electricity, and they've gotten very good at doing that, so.
Easier to get it from the comfort station.
Yeah, that
would be, yeah.
that's-
Yeah.
Any of these places that we've talked about would put them in closer proximity to the comfort station.
Yeah.
And as we know when we've been down, there's also yeah.
And I think that from a sort of, so the unintended benefits, you have the pop-up shops there, you have more people in that area. I know we experienced some vandalism in the comfort station in years past. Just having more people around throughout the day,
Yeah.
just, it helps.
It does,
Yeah.
yeah.
Won't keep it from having, but it lessens the likelihood.
Tim?
I think we should get them painted also.
Yep.
Well, spring, I know we need to wait for good weather, but they should be painted so they look.
I agree. Last year, we took what we could get.
Understood.
Painting was in the cards, but at the end of the day, we're like, just get them there.
Anything else for EJ? EJ, what, do you need any of this brought before the council for a vote, or are you still in the planning and thinking stages?
Still in planning. If we need to bring things, we'll get it on the next meeting.
Very good. Anything else come before the committee? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. I'd like to call the February 22nd Finance Committee meeting to order. First on the agenda is Danielle.
Hi, everyone. So I want to apologize for the mix-up in the financials that went out in your package. I was just checking to make sure everyone was reading them. Glad to see you did. You all passed. As far as the financials, tracking where we are budget year to date, we should be at the 58% mark as far as amounts expended or money raised. All of the departments that we currently have right now are right at that 58% or below it, except for the airport. But with the airport, we know that we had the additional pump station and the paving that wasn't in the original budget. So things are tracking as expected for the expenses. A couple accounts that were a little bit over, because again, with the mix-up in the things, you could see the reds and the blues for accounts that were over or under. On the finance side, the taxes and benefits, it shows that account is overspent. That has to do with the health insurance. We have a medical reimbursement account that we budget out to the departments. We don't get the money in by department, so I just dump it all in mine. So that we can track it overall when we compare health insurance cost. Some other things in public safety, there was a little bit over on a couple of the professional fees and the supplies line that had to do with adding the fourth crew that came on in January. We had to ramp up getting some, stuff ahead of them being brought into service. So those are, again, not budgeted but expected expenditures. On the revenue side, any questions on the expense before I go into the revenues? And on the expenditures, we're starting, so we're going to use January as the base to start our budget. So Bill and I have been working with department heads, starting our communications with the department heads, saying, okay, we're going to use your January financials, building out the budget sheets that we're going to work with over the next few months, annualizing expenses for us to work with and kind of target for next year. Again, on the revenue side, things are looking really well. Some of the items that are kind of in the red, they look negative, are just oddities. One that drives me crazy is on the interest for the taxes and stuff. That's the accounting system that we have and practice in governments. They don't usually accrue interest until the account is paid. And so what I do is once a year, I do a journal entry just to put it all in for the audit so it's reported correctly, and that gets reversed out. So again, it just looks odd, but that's an accounting thing. Same with the lien fees. And then on the one other revenue I wanted to talk about was the last couple months, November and December, the airport revenue was negative, and that was a journal entry that hadn't been reversed for the fuel inventory that they bought on July 1st. So it was just the timing of that. So the airport revenue is back in line to what it should be for the year, and I apologize for that. Any questions or concerns on the financials? I want to jump ahead. John is not here, and I see he's number 3 on for the skid steer. We did look at that, and as far as the leasing versus purchasing, it's better for us to purchase it outright as opposed to leasing. The leasing percentages that they gave us were 2.5%. Again, it doesn't seem like a lot, but the leasing company requires the vendor to pay them a fee. So that fee that the vendor had to pay, they were taking it off our discount. So it was kind of like a double whammy. So it definitely to our advantage to purchase it outright.
How long does a skid steer last? How many years?
We're seeing 6 to 7 years on them,
Okay.
so they're definitely well used and worth it.
Okay. Any questions for Danielle?
So I assume that will be brought to the full council next meeting.
Yes. Correct. Thank you.
Wait, were you going to talk about the ambulances? Was that number 2? Oh, that's Scott, okay.
Good evening. So what I wanted to bring to this committee tonight was just kind of the spot that we're in with ambulances. So in 2019, council decided to lease 2 ambulances, which was the first time that I think that department had gotten 2 ambulances at one time. In doing that, part of the reasoning was if we can stay under 100,000 miles, at that time in 19, we were going to get $25,000 in trade. That number's changed in 2022, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But so we did that so we could keep our miles down. Currently, right now, both of our ambulances, the way that we rotate them is one is a frontline ambulance 1 week, and then the next week it rotates to the second ambulance out. So we just rotate weeks. And in doing that, we've been able to keep our mileage. One of our trucks is at 53,856 miles, and our other truck is at 51,183 miles. So right in the ballpark with each other, being able to keep that down. We're coming to the end of that lease, and I guess just looking for direction coming into budget is we would expect to build 2 more ambulances to replace. I've got a 3rd ambulance, let me back. I have a 3rd ambulance that is in Bradley. That 3rd ambulance comes into service for us when one of our ambulances go down, so we don't lose the service that we provide to the communities or our contract communities, and we don't lose any revenue that we can generate to recoup some of that cost. That ambulance has 130-something thousand miles. It's a 2016. So as we look into purchasing of ambulances, if we were to trade a 2019 in with less than 100,000 miles on it, they will give us a $15,000 on a trade, and then because we're buying 2, they would knock off another $2,500 off that price. So that price, quoted as today, would be $216,645.99 for the cost of that, of 1 ambulance. if we were to look at, so if we were to trade either one of those 19s or both of those 19s, that would be the price of the ambulance that we would purchase. Or we would lease,
But
excuse me.
that's only for one.
That would be for one, that's correct. If we were to trade in the 2016 and get rid of the, because it's got over 130,000 miles on it, they're gonna give us $1,500 for the trade. They're gonna cut us the $2,500 off because we would buy more, or we would lease more than one, excuse me. And the cost of that ambulance would be $230,145.99. So, just trying to look for the direction from committee as we prepare for budget, if we still want to look at replacing 2 frontline ambulances to keep our mileages down, so that we can fall under that 100,000 mile mark. When I talked to, we ordered these from a company called Sugarloaf Ambulance, the chassis. The box and the body is built by a company called PL Customs in New Jersey. So our third ambulance has been used quite a bit in the last year, because those 2019s, they had a different way that they applied paint to the boxes at the PL Custom factory in New Jersey. The paint came off, we sent the ambulances back, at no cost to us, they repaired and fixed that. But they were gone, one of them was gone for several months through the COVID process. So that third ambulance logged a lot of mileage. But at the same time, we were still able to provide the same level of service that we can to the communities that we service, and continue to absorb some of that revenue, so we didn't lose any. So with that, I'm looking just for that direction. Is that a direction that we want to continue to go in, is to look to build, and we're a year out. So when I talked to him today, he could not, from date of order, he could not assure me anything less than 12 months on delivery. Chassis are becoming extremely difficult to find. So that was what he told me. Basically, the longer you wait, the further down the list you go when you come to place your order. An example in that is last year, council approved a new heavy rescue for the fire department. We were supposed to take delivery of that truck this spring. That truck chassis has been pushed back. We're not even supposed to get it now until October, the chassis for that truck. So just looking at the heavy equipment lines for the fire department is kind of where we're at when it comes to apparatuses. There appears to be a big delay in build. So I wanted you to know that going into this, and just looking for the direction if you wanted us to continue as I prepare for budgeting for two ambulances to be replaced.
So, let me just ask this question.
Sure.
All right. You have one right now that's in Bradley that has 130,000 miles on it. Okay, and it's gonna cost $299 to replace it, 299,000 or thereabouts?
230,000.
230.
Yep.
So, would you take one of the ones that only have 50,000 miles, bring it over there and just buy 2 here?
That's what we would do. We would rotate both of those front lines that are current front lines, right? One would be traded. The other one would replace the third truck in Bradley, so it has less miles. And we're still under the 100,000 mile mark with that. So, you know, that's a 2 years. 2 years, we've put 53,000 miles on. So even if, you know, council comes again around, we can look at if you want to replace that at any given time and stay under that 100,000 mark, you don't walk away with $1,500, and you get 15,000 instead. And that was what kind of convinced us to go into that program with Sugarloaf and PL, was because you were leaving so much money on the table on a trade.
Okay.
Sir,
Okay, I didn't understand that when you were talking.
I'm sorry, I didn't clarify that for you.
Can we buy out of the lease, get those ambulances off the lease? So first of all, when's the lease up?
October.
October. And so that,
We wouldn't, even if we ordered one today, we wouldn't have one to replace it. So
That's
we'd
right.
have to extend the lease on those.
they're leased to purchase, aren't they?
Correct, yeah, we do own them.
We'll own them in October.
So,
Okay, so we'll own them in October.
so why wouldn't we just order one to replace the Bradley one
We can do that.
and take those 2 and make one,
Bradley and one.
Yep.
and rotate the secondary one so that we don't put that many miles on them?
Absolutely.
then it's Danielle's call whether we continue leasing or buying it, or, I just hate to have the expenditure of two.
Sure.
When we can rotate them and get certain legs out of them.
Yeah, that was the question I had too. But my other question too, Scott, is you have two in mind, but we don't necessarily need two.
That's correct.
Okay.
That would be correct, because you're still gonna be under the 100,000 mark.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And hypothetically, if for some reason we did do the two and they're a year out, if we top that 100,000, are they gonna hold to that contract that we purchased so they don't ding us for?
No.
Yeah.
No, he's not. I asked that question today, too.
Yeah. that's what
Well,
I
and
thought.
we started some of the discussions, because when we started the heavy rescue starting to push out, we said, okay, let's start the process for the budget. And from the time we started talking about the ambulances until today, they've gone up $8,000 in price.
Yeah.
Just, as that things are moving and prices are increasing on us.
I would think we'd go ahead and get one spec'd out and ordered.
Okay.
Plan on trading the 2016 one, or,
Perfect.
hard to believe it's only worth $2,500.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
$1,500.
Right.
Excuse me, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bet you they make a pretty penny when they resell it, is what it boils down to. But then again, that's what secondhand does.
Is that
Yeah.
acceptable, makes sense?
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
And Danielle will make the call on buying or leasing.
I will do that.
I'm assuming there's a down payment too while it's being ordered, correct?
You can save $1,000 on the wholesale of the truck if you pay for the chassis at $40,000 as soon as you get it. They will cut you a break for another $1,000 off the price of
I
that.
just think it will run up by two just because of that. $1,000.
So, coffee a day.
I have,
Any other questions? Or-
Bill, do we put in a reserve account to replace these ambulances on the periodic basis, or is this
Heavy equipment reserve, that's what that comes out of.
or do we,
Well,
in that, do we identify ambulance replacement every 3 years at $70,000 a year, $80,000 a year, or is it just a more?
Well, that was
money
part
going
of the lease process. We figured, well, once we started this with all the equipment, that as we're going through, so we have the lease payment set at X number of dollars. Yes, we have it for 2 ambulances. If we only replace one, well, we still have that set aside, and we can look for the next piece of equipment. So, I mean, it is the lease versus the maintenance, and the reserve is kind of how we started down the road, a couple of years ago. So it's in the budget, it's just how we allocate it to specific equipment.
I have one thing. I think it'd be important, Scott, if we do purchase just one, that if that other one's getting up closer to 100, you need to come back to us before it, because you need lead time to get that, because
Yeah,
you've been 2 years, 50,000, so in another 2 years, you'll have 100, so.
yes.
And you're over a year out getting it, so sometime in the next 6 to 8 months, you probably ought to get back to us and say, this is where we are,
Okay,
keep us up to date,
yeah, I can do that.
so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for Scott or Daniel? Hearing none, I am looking for an adjournment. Moment, yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn?
There a second?
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
Thank you.
Do we need to take a break, or is there, we start right in?
I'm good to go.
Okay, good. Hearing none. Call order the February 22nd, 2022 special council meeting. Please turn off the silent cell phones. Flag salute. Councilor Carol Manning.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Silent roll call has been taken and a quorum is present.
Approval of minutes of the February 7th, 2022 regular council meeting. Okay, motion?
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Reports, Council President, I have nothing. Standing committees, Administrative, Economic, Finance, Public Service, we heard from 2 of the committees tonight. City Councilors, anything, City Councilor? City Attorney? Special Committees? City
The
Manager?
pool committee, did you meet?
We met last week. We transmitted the council's consensus that we should be looking at replacing the pool. We have, the direction ahead is to engage an engineer to help us through the planning process and budgeting process and see how much this is going to cost. So we have one that did the initial study of the pool, Weston and Sampson. We've reached out to them. Bill has reached out to them. Also, the YMCA has a group that they work with, flies across the country, that we're gonna be having a Zoom call with them to see what they offer. And the plan is to put out an RFP, get back what they can do for us, what it will cost, and bring it to the council for action. Anything I leave out, Bill?
No, that was the first thing I was gonna talk about, so you covered it all right there, yeah, just, I'm working on, putting together an RFP on design and cost estimate to get out there, and we'll send it out to several entities and bring that back to the committee and to the council once we get that all put together.
When is the Zoom meeting? Has that been,
We have not established another meeting. We're waiting for the RFP.
oh, okay, gotcha.
Anything else? Bill?
Just to follow up on that, we have safety inspections going on right now with Maine Department of Labor. They were here going through all facilities today and tomorrow. So far, everything looks good, so that's all part of our safety program here, so we haven't, no red flags yet, and that's a good thing. Out at the airport, there's a possibility through the American Recovery Act that there may be FAA grant dollars available to look towards a possible terminal replacement out there. We're gonna try to apply for that money in March. I don't know, just looking at some of the requirements of it and some of the size of the airports, even though this is a fairly busy general aviation airport in Maine, there's certainly some pretty large ones nationwide, so I don't know that we would necessarily get those dollars, but we're gonna try to. It's free money, so to speak, so we're certainly gonna pursue it, and we'll pursue it. If we don't get it this year, we'll try again next year, so that's it for me.
Bill, have you heard anything on the award of the Stillwater Bridge project?
No, they just went out to, is it going out to bid this week?
Advertised February 16th. Bids are due March 16th. That'll probably get delayed, we normally do, so.
I have a question about wanting some money to build a new terminal out there. How big are we looking at? Are we just replacing it? Are
It'd
we
be
gonna make it
replacing
bigger?
replacing what's there.
What's there?
And the other side of those dollars, and looking at the grant, again, it's grant money, so I don't wanna say that it's free, but it's grant money, so it is free money if we can get it, is to replace, when you go up the airport road and you look at the SRE building, the current garage that we have, what we would do is try to replace that attached to a terminal building, something big enough to put all of our equipment in. Because right now, the 2 snow plows that are up there, those Oshkoshes, don't begin to fit in that building.
And my concern is if a house lives very close to the airport, as a crow flies, and has the planes fly, I wonder how big we're going to make the airport, because it's noise, a lot of noise. I'm concerned about that
Yep.
as a citizen, just so you know. That's it.
Okay.
Bill, in your notes, you had something about a lot at the airport. Are you still trying to sell another lot, or do you still have someone
Yes.
interested in one lot?
Yes. Yep, next to Customs and Border Patrol. We have an appraiser that's looking at the assignment to complete it. The gentleman that was doing the appraisals for us on those commercial lots is actually retired now. It's a commercial appraiser, so we've reached out to another person to do that. He's looking at it right now.
Any other questions of Bill? Seeing none, moving on, consent agenda, items 1 through 3. City Council will consider approval of new application of a particulars license and a malt and vinous liquor license for Pepper's Landing, legal name OTPL LLC, located at 170 Main Street, pending final inspections. City Council will consider approval of renewal application for particulars license and malt and vinous liquor license for the Old Town Bowling Center LLC, located at 156 Center Street. And the City Council will consider approval of renewal application of a particulars license for DMCP Group LLC, doing business as Dunkin' Donuts, located at 975 Stillwater Avenue, pending final inspection. Councilor White.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves a new application for a victualer's license and a malt and vinous liquor license for Pepper's Landing, legal name OTPL LLC, located at 170 Main Street, pending final inspections. Item number 2, resolve the Old Town City Council hereby approves a new application for a victualer's license and a malt and vinous liquor license for Old Town Bowling Center LLC, located at 156 Center Street. Item 3, resolve the Old Town City Council hereby approves the renewal of victualer's license for DMCP Group LLC, doing business as Dunkin' Donuts, located at 975 Stillwater Avenue, pending final inspections.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on it? Seeing none, all those in favor? Hearing and second reading of ordinances. Seeing none, old business. We have none, new business. City Council will consider the sale of a piece of property as shown on Assessors Map 23, Lot 30A, currently owned by the City of Old Town, to Milligan's Landing LLC. Milligan's will be responsible for surveying of the property, deed description, recording of the property, and any legal expense and for any and all costs associated with this transaction. Councilor Pushaw.
Resolved, the City of Old Town Council hereby agrees to sell a piece of property as shown on Assessor Map 23, Lot 30A to Milligan's Landing LLC in the amount to be determined by the City Assessors in accordance with the past practice. The parcel contains approximately .20 acres. Actual dimensions have been verified by the field in the field by a licensed surveyor and released accurately within the deed. Milligan's Landing LLC will be responsible for surveying of the property, deed description, the recording of the deed, any legal expenses, and for all and any other costs associated with this transaction. The council further authorizes the city manager to execute in said sale.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Somebody like to explain what this is?
Dave Russell, Code Officer. A year or so ago, when we split off the entire site, which was the KC Hall and the ball field, the Little League field, the Milligans got involved with the KC Hall and have done a magnificent job. Their wishes are to create another ball field, and in order to get it to a standard that's acceptable, that land would need to be utilized. That land has typically been used as a dumping ground for concrete. It's just a big mound with old shrub brush trees growing up through it, which he has cleaned up. And I'll let John speak more to this, but I know he's been in contact with the Little League personnel as well as the Elks Club.
So in order to fit a regulation size field, we have to have 180 feet from center line, and this will get us to that 180 feet. So in not having the fence line on somebody else's property, we wanted to make sure that we could fix that up. We had talked to the Elks, pulling out the old rebar and junk and everything that's in there. And the idea is that behind their batting cages over towards the Elks property and the fence line of the outfield fence, that would now be mowable, nice grass area, drainage impact. There is a catch basin right there that would be, that would actually help us in great deal of draining the outfield. So that allows us to be at the minimum for the state, which is 180. So state minimum for MPA is 180 to 220. So that puts us at 180 for that fence.
John, is it going to be a Little League regulation or?
So it will be a USA softball regulation field, no grass infield, infield mix on the infield. So it'll be a 43-foot pitching mound, 40 and 43 foot, and a 60-foot baseline, so the only thing that it will not encompass is that 14-16U baseball. So it would do Little League age, and it would also do the full softball all the way up through high school.
Have you talked to school department to see if they would use that as a softball?
So
Middle
that,
school?
I have not had that discussion yet. So predominantly, that would be a fenced-in field, just the same as the other fences are. And we are in the process, we have one travel team now, so our future goal is to have a 10U, 12U, 14U, 16U, 18U travel teams that we could have our field in order to practice on. And the school department is great, we can use it at the same time, but there are some drainage issues, getting on those early issues, and through design, this one is going to be designed to be able to playable very early. So taking drainage into mind to get the water released off that field.
So you've talked to the Little League,
Yes.
they're in tune with this?
Yes.
I'm directionally challenged, okay? So where does this relate to the present Little League field? Is it right behind it, or?
So that,
This is the home plate of Little League Field.
Right.
And this is.
So it's on the side then?
So it'd be behind the KC Hall.
correct.
Where would
So,
home plate be?
so home plate would be right off that 4th Street Road.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
So-
see.
And the
I'm
Elks
looking at it
Con.
Yes,
too.
okay, yeah.
Yes, so if you looked at our property line, next to the Elks where the old horseshoe pits would be, that's the outfield line.
So you're kind of just you're going down the road, not
Correct.
Yeah.
parallel to the present field?
So, yes, so first baseline would be parallel with 4th Street. About
And that takes up
32
a
feet
par-
off center line.
And is that part of your parking lot there, or? no?
Yes, so 32 feet of parking lot's going to come out.
Yeah. And then it's stretched down. Does the Little League own the field? The city? That's what I thought.
It was leased to Little League for $1 or something like that, Bill, is that correct? Maybe Scott knows. The Little League field at the KC Field, that was leased to Little League from the city?
So I don't want to involve any conflict of interest at all, because what you're dealing with me is a taxpayer, your police chief, public safety director, and the current president of Old Town Little League. So, I've heard rumor of this taking place, but I don't know I don't know if you talked to the board last year or
Last year.
Okay, so that wasn't me. I don't know if if Little League leases that field or not. I assumed this position very recently. So I apologize for not having that answer for you.
No, that's okay.
But, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not aware of a lease currently.
Yeah, me neither.
So the Little League maintains it, basically?
Yes.
Yeah. But the city owns it?
In regards to the parking for their current facility and also for a future project that the Milligans are gonna be doing, John and I looked at it. Parking will be more than adequate for his current business and the addition that he may be proposing in the future, as well as when those aren't in operation, it'll give plenty of parking for this field. If you don't have concurrent nights, I'm sure, as he's always done, the Little League patrons can park in that parking lot as well.
Because right now, on any given weekend, we average about 327 people in and out of there on a Saturday, Sunday. Monday through Friday, we average 106 people in and out of there every single day. We have people from as far as Fort Kent to Scarborough, from Calais to Farmington that are there every weekend for pitching for either softball or baseball. So we have a very large crowd in and out of there every day. And it's just our futures are looking to, expand and harness on that. We give a lot of time away to the high schools in the area, and this season when the soccer team was going to play the playoffs, we opened it up free of charge, let them come in and practice, so that's our philosophies, community center, community-based.
I have another question. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Scott.
No, don't worry about it.
John, I think it'd be important to touch base with the Little League again and just reaffirm that everything is good if, before the city makes a decision. It was over a year ago if you talked to them, just to make sure that everybody's in the loop on what you plan.
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah, so,
Yes, there've been many conversations between, I didn't know, so sorry about that. In the past, the past 2 years, since we purchased the property, a plan was to put a softball field in. And so, we've had multiple conversations in the past with them and multiple with the Elks and, so trying to make it better than it is now, which is just a
Well, I
dumping
think
ground.
anything is an improvement. The more fields we have, the better. I just like to have you up to date with them, that's all.
so the parking would be on the other end of the field? I know you have a parking lot on the side of the building.
Correct. We would add no additional parking.
Okay, so it's not a huge parking lot, but, when we used to vote there. When there used to be a lot of people voting.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, we would, no additional parking would be added.
John, I got a question for you. Pending approval, what's your construction window for this? Is it gonna be an overlap with the Little League season, or like when are you looking at building
As
this
soon as
field?
spring flies.
Okay,
So it is currently all surveyed out.
okay.
The property has been a little bit cleaned up. The brush has been cut, the overbrush and some of the overburden that is there, so we could survey that out.
Okay,
So throughout this summer.
okay.
And it sort of coincides very well is that our facility is highly utilized during the wintertime inside.
Yep.
And obviously Little League is not outside, and then we slow down greatly in the summertime, and then Little League picks back up. So it works well.
EJ, would you mind coming up and moving the screen to showing that field? Showing that area?
So just one question regarding like the parking too. You're adding this new field that's gonna increase, so I'm assuming schedule-wise, you're still gonna have plenty of parking and not have to worry about.
Correct.
There's a
Okay.
hill there, so that's gonna be smoothed out.
I mean, it's great to see all the activity that's there, and it seems to be a great idea that you have these other levels of teams looking to come in.
So yes.
Can you point out where home plate would be? You said third base or first base is parallel with fourth?
So home plate would be right there. Ish.
So
So
it really is
first baseline would come down this way. The 180 fence line would actually come right up into here and down.
Different than that.
Well, that's the.
So the batting cages would
that's
have
the
to be
existing.
moved.
That's right on.
So the fence line will be
Okay. so
9.5 feet away from that batting cage.
Yeah, it's a
So
little
it's
bit,
just
yeah.
a fence that would be there. I'm the one that put him in anyway. So we would, if we had to, and if they wanted to, we could take that first row of poles and then put that on the next side.
On the other side,
Those cages, we put the poles in for them with the idea that they were going to encapsulate them at the top with 2x6s, and that never got done. So really, they need to be adjusted a little bit anyway. And while I'm there, I'll have my excavator and stuff like that there, so we can work together and make that happen and, sort of stand them back up and put them like how they were supposed to be.
The engineer and me can't help it, but you need 25 feet behind the plate for a backstop.
Correct.
So you need 205 feet. You need 180 for the fence line, plus 25 behind it. You only have 180.
Right, so from the back of the diamond to the outfield fence line is 180, and then that backfield, with MPA, we can get away with a little less than that for softball, so the backstop will be 15 feet behind home plate.
But you only have 183 feet from the property line.
I guess, I apologize, I'm not following you.
So the property line of the property you own is 143 feet, maybe 148 feet. You're asking for 40.
I don't know why this isn't bringing up property line.
What's that?
What he's saying.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
He's looking at 148, 40, going this way.
So it
I'm reading
really is right on the
247.
road, isn't it?
Yeah.
Others are-
Yes.
So when you look at the 148 and the 40, that's lineal
This is
from the
old.
street, but where home plates are here, then you're looking at your 180s out here. Here.
I'm not following. Can you?
Mm.
So it's 180 feet down baseline. Baselines are at a 90-degree angle. I'm getting way too much engineering in this angle.
I had them, we were there, I brought Plix and Day in, and we, that was what they gave me for that 40 feet in order to, we put home base in, and then ran our radius of 180 feet all the way around.
It's not gonna fit.
So that's
We'll take a look at that again.
Okay, just word of caution.
We were, without moving, I would not be against taking, purchasing more. It's just, that'll be, then I'll have to move the batting cages and their shed and things like that, because that property back there is doing nothing. It just,
I thought that went with the KC.
pardon me?
I thought that went with the building that you purchased, that back lot.
No, so ours is that rectangle, and that's it. So we go all the way to the Elks Club.
Okay,
Could you just double check the layout,
yeah.
Yes,
please?
absolutely.
So we have a question from Councilor White about checking with Little League. Do you want to table this until he checks with Little League?
I guess before I vote on it, I'd like to know the Little League is up to speed on it this year and where they stand with it.
And we can put it on our next meeting.
I don't think we're opposed to it. We just want to make sure that everybody is clear with it, so.
I agree for that.
You understand what we're
Yes,
doing, right?
I do.
Thank you, John.
Do you want me to make a motion to put,
Since I'm not up on my Robert's rules, which I should be, so,
I'd like to make a motion that we table this till the next meeting?
I'll second it.
okay. All those in favor?
Question, if you table it for this meeting, does it go to the next committee meeting?
That's why I didn't put a time on it, because that would be an assumed thing, that it will be on the next meeting.
All I'm asking is you want it to go to the next
Correct, that
committee,
is-
not to the council.
Well, the council has to vote on it, so
Right,
it's gonna
yeah.
have to go to the next council meeting.
But for
Right.
the first round, you want to go back to the committee.
No, for my question, I don't care as long as,
Or do you
Yeah,
want
just-
No, I think
Yeah.
it just comes back to the council
council.
like it is
Yeah.
now.
So have it come back March 7th
Right.
to the full council
Right.
for approval. It
So-
would have to
yeah.
anyways, even
Yeah.
if we
Right.
approved it tonight.
Right, and I'll make that in the motion, it'd
Yeah.
be the next council meeting,
Yeah.
March 7th.
And meanwhile, I'll drive up there. It's easier for me to see. It's hard for me to envision these things with, pictures, but we know where the field is.
Walk up by it.
Yeah. That'll be my walk along, that's gonna be nice.
All those in favor of tabling this motion? Thank you. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second and-
All in favor?